Okay, folks, why does it seem like... Okay, there the brightness picked up a little. All right. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And I don't expect I'm going to see too many people on the live stream on account of it being Thanksgiving and all. So I'll give it about 15 minutes, see if anybody joins. And then if not, then I'll click off and just say goodnight. I have already been fed. I have been noshing on pork chops, actually. My family is not really traditional when it comes to Thanksgiving. We don't mind, doing pretty much anything when it comes to our selection of food. I've had Thanksgiving Day pizza. I've had Thanksgiving Day turkey. This year it was Thanksgiving Day pork chops. It's all good. I mean, it's just so long as you eat and you get fat, that's pretty much all Thanksgiving is for. That and gratitude. And I thought that I'd mentioned a few things that I am grateful for this year. One of them, of course, is the Rippaverse. I have to say I am grateful for the Rippaverse for bringing some attention to my channel on account of the fact that when I started commenting on the Rippaverse, I want to say I had only about 100 plus followers, and now I'm up to actually 700 plus followers. And a lot of that has been on account of my Rippaverse commentary. So got to give a shout out to Eric July and crew. I mean, if it wasn't for them, my channel wouldn't be where it is today. Let me see if I can I bump this up any, or is this, and I'll just leave it as it is. I don't want to get rid of the chat portion, even though there we go. Garfield's Bizarre Adventure says, already had turkey with the family. How's it going, Mike? Yes, I have already stuffed myself. For me, it was pork chops today. And I actually have a couple of McDonald's McRibs in the fridge as well. So it's going to be like an all pork day. It's going to be probably something so unhealthy that my arteries are just going to slam shut tonight and call it a life. There's the Real Nerdy Review says, the man, the myth, the legend. Well, thank you. Unless you're talking about yourself, you deserve that kind of praise too. Come on, don't sell yourself short. Yeah, I got to say, if it weren't for the Rippaverse, my channel would not nearly have had the attention that it has had. Although I am really heartened to see, and I don't know exactly what to chalk this up to, that my video on Mark Millar's Nemesis Reloaded has actually gotten over 500 views, which is kind of standard for a Rippaverse video, but not all that standard for one of my others. So I'm really pleased to see that. I don't know, however, whether it's not all the result of just my putting it as the featured video on my channel, and so people like wind up playing a few seconds of it, and maybe that counts as a view. I don't know. I do know that, golly, I don't know if I can actually feel grateful for what happened to poor Adam Johnson. I mean, good God, that's just ghoulish. But if it wasn't for his unfortunate demise on the ice, I would only have about 600 plus followers. I've actually gained like 70 something followers from my, stupid little commentary video that I made on Matt Petgrave's, what some people are calling an assassination of Adam Johnson. I'm laughing mostly because I'm embarrassed. I mean, that sucker's got 73,000 views now. I know. Let's see. Garfield's Bizarre Adventure says your Matt Petgrave video got you more hate than your Rippaverse takes. I know. I saw someone trying to strawman your take on the situation to the 9/11 attacks. That's right. They're gonna come out with a popular mechanics issue on my horrible take on the Matt Petgrave Adam Johnson incident. Let's see. Andrew Rowland asks, are you buying Alpha Core and reviewing it? Yes, I will be buying. I have bought my copies of Alpha Core. I've got a copy of cover D that will be my For Keeps cover. And then the Joe Bennett cover is the one that I decided to use to cannibalize for scans. So that one will be getting the RIP treatment. And as soon as that comes in, they're not scheduled to ship on that until December 4th, though. And so it's going to be, a couple of weeks before I get mine in. And I'm not a member of the Rippaverse Guild or whatever the heck they're calling it. So I will not be in priority behind all of the actual members in the queue. So I will, however, get mine pretty early. I ordered mine, I think, the second day, just when I was certain that they were not going to be putting out uh, any kind of extra merchandise. It looks like they had all of their merchandise like set and ready to go, and they weren't going to be making any more releases. So I said, okay, I'm just gonna go throw my hat in the ring, and so I picked up those two issues, and I'll be reviewing those. I have high hopes for it, honestly, because it's Chuck Dixon writing it, and you got to think that the guy has had a world of experience where he's not going to make like all of the really horrid slip ups. Although I did review his work with Graham Nolan, Joe Frankenstein, and just the preview of that I reviewed, I was not terribly, impressed with that particular work. I found a lot of things to be desired in that 8-page preview or so. So it's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that Alpha's Core is going to be a good book. Let's see. Garfield's Bizarre Adventure asks, which cover is the worst or best in your opinion? Okay, so there's 4 covers to Alpha Core #1. The best of the covers, I thought, was cover D, the one that's going to be the mass market cover, because that's the one that just basically shows the 3 main characters on a flaming background or something like that. Sub to that would be cover A. Cover A is the Joe Bennett cover. It's the one that shows the 3 members of Alpha Core confronting. I don't know those characters' names yet. I think one of them is called Tweaker Dave or something like that. And that one I thought was pretty close on, except Ingrid Valdez is like throwing her whip like up into the air or something. And I just got kind of turned off by the pose. I just felt like that was like somebody trying to do a dramatic pose for her, and it didn't really fire off the way that I thought it should. And then what's the next one down from that? Well, the next 2 have to do with, and I promised myself I would remember her name, and it's Liliana. Damn, I know her last name starts with R. Do you have the last name of the one who's opposite Michael Copper? Because I know Michael Copper is going to be in this issue, and then it's Liliana. I keep wanting to say Rohickey, and it's not that. So, I'm trying to remember her. Is it Ronashi? Is it Liliana Ronashi, or is it something else? I don't know. I mean, I'm still a little miffed that he didn't just throw that into ISOM #1. That is something that he did say, that if he had to do it over again, he would go back to I'm sorry, not Alpha Core #1, ISOM #1. He would go back to ISOM #1. Ronashi. Yeah. It probably is Liliana Ronashi. No, it's Lillian Ronashi, because I keep saying Liliana because I'm thinking Liliana Vess from the Magic the Gathering cards, who had a really, really interesting character arc if you follow it as long as it was around. She was one of the very first Planeswalker cards, all the way back from Lorwyn. And I swear to God, Lorwyn was probably the last best set from Magic the Gathering, and I think Lorwyn came out. Well, I do think Lorwyn came out before Innistrad, and Innistrad and Morningtide were pretty good sets. I think Morningtide was after Innistrad, and then I didn't get to play Avacyn Reborn or whatever the heck, or Avacyn Released. I forget which one that was. We could go into my Magic the Gathering stuff later, but I still need to answer the question about the covers. So there's 2 other covers. There's cover B and cover C. I believe cover B is just Ingrid Valdez fighting Lilian Ronashi. And then there is the cover C, which is the foil cover, which is, I believe it's got Michael Copper and Lilian Ronashi on there, and Alpha Core are like small on the cover. I would say probably C is better than B, just on the count of, B only features Ingrid and Lilian. So being, as limited in scope as it is, I'd probably put that down as the worst cover. So so that's how I'd go as far as ranking them: D, A, C, and B. I was interested to notice that the foil cover this time, for some reason, was only $50 as opposed to $100. So, I mean, go figure. I don't know exactly what prompted that. Let's see. Andrew Rowland says, I don't know how Alpha Core as heroes is going to fit into Eric's anarchic philosophy. Did you see the on Twitter? Somebody Eric posted where somebody put up, or no, somebody posted and Eric retweeted where someone actually put up a super chat on his and Az's live stream where somebody made exactly that remark. It says, it's amazing how a libertarian anarcho-capitalist can build an audience just to get them to buy his book about superheroes who are arms of the state. And that was great. Yeah, he figured that his heroes would not be the police or work for the police. But, you know, that's ISOM. That's ISOM. That's Bloodruth. It's technically Gooding. I mean, there are those characters there. And Alpha Core as police officers, I actually like the fact that he is revitalizing that idea. Now, I've told people before that Savage Dragon was really the first one to introduce that as far as I was concerned. And somebody mentioned that Christos Gage had a 2 mini-series series called Absolution that also explored that concept. And I just don't remember that one as well, but that seems to ring true for me. But Savage Dragon was really the first one to do that, and that was all the way back in 1992, 1993 with the birth of Image Comics. That was Eric Larson's baby, and he's still going strong on that. It'll be interesting if I ever decide, to go ahead and plunk down and like buy the omnibuses or something and see, what all he did in that series. Because I kind of lost interest after about 50 or 60 issues. It was kind of like, this thing is just not ending, is it? And he already said he wanted to go at least as long as Dave Sim did with Cerebus the Aardvark. He wants to have Savage Dragon go for at least 300 consecutive issues. And he's on his way. I think he's up in the 230s maybe. So he's on his way. Okay, let's see. Sammy Jenkins Experience. Did you know that Eric includes shipping and tax in his campaign sales totals? Yes. I do. His 1 million campaign is actually more. Well, if you include that, yeah. But gross revenue usually does include that. So he's not like fudging the numbers in that case. Gross revenue is going to include things like taxes and shipping in there. So he's not like pulling an accounting trick or anything like that. Let's see. Garfield's Bizarre Adventure. Eric wants to make comics for an audience that wants to be entertained. By greenlighting Alpha Core, a team of super cops, it shows that he isn't going to inject his personal politics too much. Yeah, I mean, he might or he might not. I mean, who knows? Maybe there will be actually some ANCAP politics that go into his books, and more power to him if he decides to do that. When comic book writers try to push a particular point of view, as long as I know that they're doing it and they're not trying to sneak it by me, I don't actually mind that much. In fact, some of the best books out there are pure propaganda. I mean, if you've ever read Atlas Shrugged, Atlas Shrugged is one of the best books of all time. And Atlas Shrugged is basically pro-capitalist, anti-communist propaganda. And that's fine. I don't mind that. I actually read a book that was exactly the opposite of that. There's a book by Jack London, who wrote White Fang and Call of the Wild. He wrote a book called The Iron Heel, or I think that's what it was called, The Iron Heel or The Iron Nail. I think it was The Iron Heel. But that was actually a pro-communist propaganda book and an anti-capitalist propaganda book. And I found that entertaining too. So when books are written to push a particular point of view, I don't actually mind that so much, so long as I know that's what I'm getting. I think what comics have kind of devolved down to is like they're trying to use these superheroes of old and use them to push the views that maybe they wouldn't have. But it's kind of hard to say because every time you have a hero, you have that hero trying to represent what is the ideal state now. It's not just what that hero thinks or feels. I mean, that you've got to adhere somewhat closely to the original concept of the character, or else you're just going completely off the rails. And I think that's kind of what's happened with characters like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, where people they've injected maybe too much of their own views to the point where nobody can get back to the basic character. but sometimes it's almost impossible to get back to the basic character. I mean, look at Wonder Woman, for God's sake. Wonder Woman was based on the idea that men and women are different. I mean, holy crap. How unpopular is that idea in today's day and age? So now what are they making her into? I mean, now they're making her into the idea that, women can be just as badass as men. But that's not the original Wonder Woman. I mean, she always was as badass as the men, but we never expected her to really try and fill that role. And I don't even think people like Jeff Johns got Wonder Woman right. Jeff Johns has a really good ear for character, but Wonder Woman, he actually made her the avatar of love. And saying, no one loves the world, more than Wonder Woman. It's like, what? Not the Wonder Woman that I've been reading for the last, I don't know how long at that point, because this was the Wonder Woman who, broke a guy's neck when there was no other way to save Superman from his influence. I mean, my gosh. I mean, that doesn't sound exactly like the most loving response. I mean, you think she might have been able to do something or other with him. But yeah, I mean, when Infinite Crisis came out, I mean, that seemed to be the role that she played. She's like, I'm the one who kills monsters, I'm the monster slayer. And then Jeff Johns turns right back around in Blackest Night and turns her into like the avatar of love. I'm like, I have no idea who he thinks Wonder Woman is. So, oh, dear heaven, wow. Okay, Andrew Rowland, I have to thank you, because you have just delivered me my first ever super chat. Thank you so much. I so deeply appreciate that. Oh my gosh, I'm just right about to cry. I mean, happy Thanksgiving to you, and happy Thanksgiving to me too. Thank you so much for that. $10 saying, I'm more okay with the original creators inputting their politics into their characters than other people mouthpiecing their politics into other people's characters. And that's very true. The problem is that they're really the company's property. And if the original creators have moved on, then they've moved on. I mean, look how much they've twisted up Superman these days. I mean, and not even necessarily in a bad way, but if you look at John Byrne's treatment of Superman in Man of Steel. Now, of course, John Byrne's not the original creator of Superman either. But if you look at how he treated Superman in 1986, and then when Mark Waid came back with Superman Birthright after Smallville had come out, you can look at Mark Waid's treatment, that the original treatment and proposal in the Birthright trade paperback, and it is so 180 from what John Byrne did. It's just kind of like, okay, do we even care anymore about character consistency? I mean, it's like John Byrne's focus was that Clark Kent is the real person and Superman is the disguise. And when Mark Waid delivered his treatment for Superman Birthright, he went back to like the original, the TV series where it says disguised, Superman disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for the Daily Planet. And he's like, Clark Kent is the disguise. Superman's the real person. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is like 180 degrees. And yet we're pretending this is the same character somehow. I don't even know what to think of it anymore. So, yeah, it's one of those, you have a hard time keeping the current writer from making that character into something it's not. It's really a heavy responsibility. And I like what Chuck Dixon's attitude was. And I've started watching Chuck Dixon's channel. If you've ever watched that as yet, it's good to listen to him and his writing theory and how he deals with characters. And what he's noticed is that everybody wants to come to comics and put their spin on a character. And he looks at it and says, how dare I come and try to put my spin on a character? That character doesn't belong to me. That character belongs to the readers. And so I need to present the readers the character that they've come to expect. And what's ironic about that, though, is that one of the shifts in character for Batman, I think, came around the time that Chuck Dixon was writing him, which was the shift of Batman from, steady and stable crime fighter to somebody who was just drained and tired and really wanting a normal life and just wanting to try and get ahead with a social aspect of his life as opposed to just doing crime fighting all the time. That is something that they brought into it to start the Bane storyline going. And once they did, then it kind of picked up. But if you were reading it like month to month to month, you didn't notice the shift as much as if you're like taking a whole block. Ooh, what happened? I'm starting to glitch up something fierce here. Let me make sure that. Let me close one of my Google things just to make sure I got a little bit of memory back. If you look at, or if you were reading Chuck Dixon, or not Chuck Dixon, if you were reading the Batman titles at the time that they started the Bane storyline going, you would notice an almost seismic shift in Batman's character at that time, because they really needed to play up the idea that he was tired. And so it just went from like night, it was like from day to night. All of a sudden he was just burdened. And Robin wound up kind of morphing in terms of his character as well, because Robin up to that point, and I think this was under Chuck Dixon's writing, had always been kind of a serious character. And he wound up being a little bit more like a, I don't know, puckish, spritish character under whoever the current writer was at the time. I don't know if it was Grant or somebody else. And he even started referring to Alfred the butler as Alfie, which he'd never done before. And I'm just like, seriously? So yeah, even though that storyline turned out really good, and one of these days I'll go back and reread it and I'll see if it holds up over time. But the whole Nightfall through the Nights, the Crusade and Night Search or Night's End or whatever the heck it was, then I'll go back and see whether it holds up. But I still remember that as a good series. It was such a departure from what had come before. I mean, especially when they just threw in this Azrael character all of a sudden. All right, let's see. I'm a little bit far behind here. Run the Point Night. Happy Thanksgiving. 9 minutes behind, catching up 2 times. I purchased Cover D as well just recently. Good to see you. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Garfield's Bizarre Adventure. I think Actual Fandom was the only guy who thought Alpha Core was going to make less than $1 million. I think EVS had it at 1.2 million. Yeah, and EVS said he got that by cutting in half the he cut in half the figure that he had for ISOM number 2, and just basically said it's going to be half of that. I am a little bit surprised that it has been a struggle. And, some people have been making fun of me for the short that I made saying that, do you see that there's some kind of stench of desperation around Rippaverse? But I don't know. I mean, am I the only one who's noticed that the promotion of Alpha Core number 1 has just been through the roof? I mean, I don't remember seeing any kind of promotion of ISOM number 2 like this. It was almost like, well, they read ISOM number 1, they're going to read ISOM number 2. And then all of a sudden there's a 53% drop-off in the number of purchasers. And it's like, whoops, maybe we should actually advertise this stuff because we can't rely on them to be coming back. Thank you, Garfield's Bizarre Adventure. He said, here's $5, Mike, spend it wisely. I swear to God, I'm thinking that, I might just wind up recycling this as super chats. It's like all the super chat money might just wind up going around. But honestly, these comic books, my gosh, they are expensive. So far, I was lucky that Nemesis Reloaded was one that I had already gotten. So that was one that I was really hoping was going to be a sequel to Mark Millar's original Nemesis. And then after someone suggested to me, it's like, well, why don't you do, if you don't like Mark Millar's stuff anymore, why don't you give an example of why? Which is not really what I did in the Mark Millar video. I didn't say, well, this is why I don't like this series. It was just basically I went and I subjected it to the same kind of level of criticism that I do with, ISOM, and that I'll do with Alpha Core, and that I've done with Cyberfrog. Speaking of which, did you notice the live stream that Ethan Van Sciver put out either, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, but he actually mentioned that there are a couple of changes that he made in this latest version of Cyberfrog Blood Honey. And I don't know if he made those changes based off of my input, but those items are in my videos. There's one point at which he said that there are a couple of kids waiting in the Pine Barrens to see their friends, and they're waiting for drugs because their friends have the drugs, but it's never mentioned in the original Cyberfrog Blood Honey what it is that they're actually waiting for. They're just waiting for their friends who are going to show up for some particular reason. And so he rewrote the dialogue in that scene to include the fact that they're waiting for drugs. And then there's another portion where there was a set of dialogue captions that was originally split between two panels, and then it got condensed into one panel where it really didn't make sense. And so he split that back out again. But that was another thing that I had mentioned in one of my review videos. So it's so refreshing when, and like I said, I don't know if he got those ideas from me or if he saw that himself or if he had someone else advising him or gave him that information. I can't claim to be the source of that. But I got to tell you, it's really vindicating when you make a comment on something and then you have the guy actually go back and fix it. I mean, instead of just, having me on his Monetize Your Haters show for like an hour long and just tell me every single criticism I have is invalid. That's an entirely different experience, let me tell you. My gosh. So let's see. Michael Dietsche, is that Dietsche? Is that how you pronounce that? Sure, an underlying message artfully presented that can make you stop and think, even if I strongly disagree, is the stuff strong minds do not fear. And you know what's a really good movie if you want to see something like that? There's a great movie called The Banshees of Inisherin. It stars Colin Farrell and I think Dominic Gleeson. And they're a pair of friends, and one of them just decides out of the blue not to be the other one's friend anymore. Every day they'd go down to the pub and they'd have drinks together. And then one day, one of them decides, I want to do something else. I'm not going to hang out with you anymore. And all of the horrible consequences that come out of that just one decision. And it winds up being a metaphor for something even grander. But, I'm not going to say anything more about that because you got to experience that for yourself. Because by the time you get to the end of the film, you're thinking, oh my God, this is not just talking about these two guys. This is talking about this other grander concept and how things can spiral out of control. So I really enjoyed that movie. That was one heck of a movie. Mike, let's see. Garfield's Bizarre Adventure. I'll read your second one first since I just laughed at it. Mike Partika will always be synonymous with trucks and stairs. Yes, I will. And not only that, but I am actually going to go back to ISOM number 1 now that I've started this Let's Fix series where I'm actually going and making the corrections in there. And I am going to show just what the hell I'm talking about, because I swear I still don't think people understand exactly what I meant in various portions of that. I hope they get like a kick out of it when, I change the truck color to what it ought to be. But just like I changed the hat color that was wrong in ISOM number 2. So ISOM number 2, that hat color, I was like, oh God, I'm going to take even more crap than I did for the truck from this. Like, well, why do you care what color hat is? Blah blah blah. It's like, well, are you trying to be consistent or are you trying to be inconsistent? But the stairs thing, my God, I really have to draw up a blueprint for that. I had to laugh when I saw the Club Merc as it was depicted in ISOM number 2. It's like, well, that's strange. I see a lot of glass gone from the side of that building. So, oh my goodness. But yes, I still have my Cyberfrog stuff to do. I'm in the middle of writing a short story now for somebody who's commissioned one from me. I don't know how exactly long it's going to be. Most short stories are 10,000 words or less, and I'm about 1,100 words into this one, but it's for an interesting anthology concept idea that I'm sure I'll be promoting here on this channel as soon as the work is more finished. And there's also some progress being made on the 8-page script that I delivered to that same person. So I've got that in the works going. Other than that, I really there's one thing that I have been really wanting to read in the near future. And unfortunately, I have it in my mind that it's always better to watch the adaptations of the original material than read the original material first. And the reason being is because when you read the original material first, then if you watch the adaptation, you're always going to be comparing the adaptation to the original and saying, oh, well, wait a minute, that person wasn't quite like this in the original book. And just, you wind up diminishing the adaptation you're watching. If you do it in the opposite direction, though, then you can still respect the original material for what it is, and even while you're comparing it to the adaptation, because you might think, oh, the adaptation, okay, it's doing this with the characters, and I kind of like that better, but I do respect what they did to originate the concept. So I guess if somebody had, in my case, maybe what's a good example of that is what they did with the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. I mean, of course, that concept is absolutely nothing like what the book turned out to be, and when you see it on the screen, it's like, oh, that's actually pretty funny. In fact, the only reason I even went to see Iron Man 3, I wasn't really interested in seeing it, but somebody was like, oh, you're going to love it when there's a twist midway through. And I was like, you're kidding me. There's a Marvel Comics movie that actually has a twist in it? I guess I better go see it then before somebody spoils it for me. So I go and I see it, and I was like, oh, that is kind of cute. But I have a feeling that there is that portion of me that's kind of like, boy, but I do wish I could have seen, the Mandarin as he originally was portrayed on the big screen, even with the 10 ring kind of stuff going on. So yeah, that's so anyway, what I want to read is I want to read the Luke Cage Epic Collection #1, which I do own now. It's called Retribution, and it contains the first 23 issues of Luke Cage, which was originally Hero for Hire and then became Power Man, and then would eventually become Power Man and Iron Fist when Iron Fist was joined into the book. But I have not yet seen Luke Cage on the Netflix series, which is now has moved to Disney Plus as part of the Defenders saga. So now before I can get to that, I first have to do Daredevil season 2, and then I can read Luke Cage, and then I can read the Luke Cage Epic Collection. So my gosh, I've got a whole bunch of TV watching to do. I've got a whole bunch of viewing to do. I just picked up. If you haven't looked and you haven't noticed, there are Black Friday deals that are going on for some of the streaming networks. Make sure you're aware of that. There is a Peacock deal going on where you can get the whole year for like $20, and then by buying an annual subscription, and then on HBO Max, they're actually doing a deal where your first 6 months are only $2 or $3 a month. So definitely check those out if you're interested in picking those up and exploring those. I know there's certain things on I call it HBO Max. It's just Max now, and that's pretty much all there is to that. Let me just check this for some reason. I want to say all messages are visible and make sure I haven't missed any. So I don't think I've missed any. And I think I'm going to go ahead and call it quits for now. It's been about a half hour, and the crowd's just kind of petering out. So thank you, everyone. And thank you so much for the people who have donated super chats. Those are my first ever super chats. And maybe I'll use those to get myself some promotion. And oh, wait a minute. Andrew Rowland says, you missed my previous comment. Well, which one was that? Because I saw the super chat where it says, I'm more okay with the original creators inputting their politics into their characters than other people mouthpiecing their politics into other people's characters. And I addressed that one. Is there another one? Let me just make sure. I addressed your comment about, yes, I am buying Alpha Core and reviewing it. I already mentioned about Alpha Core and Eric's philosophy. I don't see another one right under Garfield's super chat. I see Student of God saying OMG, but I don't see anything else. Let me see if there's any like held comments. Hold on a second. Moderation activity, participants, timestamps, and I'm showing everything, I think. Some messages may not be visible. Live chat. Oh, now Garfield's Bizarre Adventure says, a wise man once said, Star Trek doesn't tell you what to think, it gives you things to think about. I'll address that in a second. And as the Rippaverse grows, so this, yeah, go ahead and just retype the comment in. Don't send any money for it, but just retype the comment in. And yeah, let me address the Star Trek thing from Garfield's Bizarre Adventure. Star Trek: The Next Generation lost me after two particular episodes. One of them was an episode in which these rich people from the 20th century or 22nd century or whatever had been in cryogenic suspension, and they'd been woken up into the world of the Federation. And Picard is telling them, well, we don't work for money anymore. Money, we have replicators that give us everything we want, so we don't work for money. We work to enrich ourselves. And I'm looking at the screen like, what garbage is this? Because if you're going to work to enrich yourself in terms of your personal experience and all that kind of stuff, you're not going to like join a quasi-military strike force that could put you in harm's way. That's not going to happen. I don't know what kind of incentive system you think actually works in this world of the Federation, but nobody who is so well off that they don't have to join the army joins the army unless they are like super gung-ho about trying to go out and kill things. I'm sorry. That just makes no freaking sense. There would not be a Starfleet in a world where you didn't have at least some sort of incentive system that gets people onto those ships. I just was not buying it. And the other episode that lost me was an episode in which Riker fell for an alien who came from a race of genderless aliens. Except she was different in that she had a sense of gender. So it's almost like, imagine an alien race who had male and female aspects, but all of them considered themselves non-binary. And then this girl was, in that she considered herself female. And so she was compatible with Riker. Well, they kidnapped this alien. Sorry if this is spoilers, but the series has been, however many far down the years. I mean, feel free to, stop the video here and go watch the episode. But basically, her people find out that she's, addled in this way according to their standards of gender. And so they find her and they kidnap her and they take her back and they perform some sort of brain thing that fixes her. And now we're all supposed to feel bad about that because she's been fixed. It's like, no, I'm not going to feel bad about the fact that they took this woman who had a wrong vision of herself and then was fixed by members of her people. It's like, no, they did the right thing. Now one can say, well, it wasn't consensual, and that is true. But at the same time, it's like, okay, generally what would have happened if she had known about this, like as a child, maybe she would have reported this to her mom and her mom would have taken her to the brain thing, gotten her fixed, and then she would have gone on and lived a normal life at that point. But it's like, you're trying to tell me that leaving someone in their defective condition is better. It's like, I'm sorry, you've completely lost me at this point. I'm done. I'm just done buying into any kind of Star Wars or Star Trek crap because you just don't have a clear moral head on your shoulders. And like, I'm sorry, I'm done. And so those were the two episodes that did it for me. The ones that was like, oh yeah, in a world with riches, we'll still join the army. Shit. And then, the one about, well, someone who has gender problems, you should just leave that person as it is. Like, no. So Andrew Rowland, have you resent the comment yet? Because if you have, it may be getting held up some way, shape, or form, and I'll have to check the settings on that. Let me see if there is some sort of setting, because I don't see any. Let's see, moderation activity. Do I see anything like that? Moderation activity will be shown, but I don't have any moderators, and I haven't been doing any moderating myself. So live chat, there's fan funding. If I pull that one up, then the only thing that I see are the super chats. Otherwise, I can do chop chat. Otherwise, I do live chat. And I've got it on live chat, so everything should be visible, and it should be right under Garfield's. But I don't have anything under Garfield's super chat. Oh no, dude, you shouldn't have super chatted that. I have 2 video comic series in the works, and when it's uploaded on YouTube, maybe you can react to it and rip it apart. Yes, absolutely. Oh gosh, thank you for the $5 again. I feel like I should refund that to you. Can I refund that? Because really, you shouldn't have had to do that. Oh gosh, if there's a way, I'll try and figure out how to. Oh, no need to refund. Well, thank you anyway. If I find a way, I will do that. Otherwise, I'm sorry that happened, that you had to do it. Is there like a $5 minimum on these things? I thought maybe there was just a $2 that you can get away with. I mean, to me, that would be just as fine. I mean, my gosh. I mean, right now, I'm in a position where I don't have so many people watching the feed that it's like, you're going to get priority. You're going to get your stuff answered first, and if I have to go, then at least I'll have answered what it is that you said. But I mean, generally, I'm going to wind up reading all the comments anyway. So nobody, please feel obligated to send me anything like that. But I do very much appreciate it. Okay, let's see. Is that it for today? Yeah, and absolutely. If you have a video comic series in the works, when it's uploaded on YouTube, maybe you can react to it and rip it apart. Sure. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to have exactly the same kind of expertise that I can bring to the table on videos, although I have commented some on like the ISOM #2 animated trailer, and I've commented some on the Alpha Core animated trailer, and I've got a video in the works that I'm probably going to put up tomorrow. And that one, well, I'm either going to put it up tomorrow or I'm going to put it up tonight because I have a hard time just holding off on this kind of stuff. It has to do with the animated trailers that ISOM or the Rippaverse has put out, because I noticed something really interesting about them that I'm not sure. Well, I know, I want to say I know it's been noticed within Rippaverse. I don't know if the Rippaverse fandom has noticed it so much. And so I'm going to try bringing that to their attention, because it's going to be one of those like, oh yeah, that could wind up being a problem. So I mentioned it on Ethan Van Sciver's channel on one of his live streams. So you might see it if you take a look at the comments there. But I've got a fun one coming up that's going to be. It'll be a little bit on the lengthy side just because there's so much to cover. But I think it'll be interesting. I don't know. We'll see. It won't be as interesting as the damn hockey video, that's for sure. God. I'm just so glad now. I am just so glad now that all of the like anger and frustration seems to have finished pouring itself out. Either that or YouTube has stopped putting me on the main page. Because I think at one point, when if you were to put Matt Petgrave into the search on YouTube, my video actually came up. And I think that's why I was getting so much hate on that video and so many views, because like 73,000 views on that freaking thing. And I think most of them like stuck around to watch through the whole thing just to be like, is this guy really this much of an idiot? and like, well, no comment, but thanks for the showtime. I've definitely got the watch hours. I would love to get up to 1,000 subscribers at this point, because finally ad revenue too at that point. But we'll see. So thank you so much, everyone. Garfield's Bizarre Adventure says the Rippaverse is making everyone rich now. I just got that. I didn't realize you meant me. Yes. All right. It's going to be like Bitcoin, I tell you. Oh God, I swear I'm a little depressed over Bitcoin, because I actually was thinking about like plunking down some significant money into Bitcoin about 3 weeks ago, and then the price shot up at right like the week before I was going to make my purchase. It just shot up, and so yeah, it was one of those you snooze you lose kind of things. All right, thank you everyone for watching. I'm going to go ahead and close this one down. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate the super chats, and thank you so much. And everyone take care. Hope you sleep off that turkey. Enjoy your weekend, and I will talk to y'all later.